Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another PSE Stock Market webinar. I'm John Garcia from the PSE's Market Education Department. We're glad to have you with us. The recent rise in the COVID-19 cases in the Philippines prompted the government to implement another ECQ, or the strictest quarantine category in NCR and other areas in the Philippines. The ECQ is supposed to run from August 6 to August 20. Because of this, investors now face the dilemma of deciding whether to liquidate their investments or accumulate more shares and increase their positions. Our webinar today aims to enlighten the audience on how to take advantage of investment opportunities while hedging their portfolio from market volatility. Today, we will answer the question, is it good to invest now or should we wait it out? So I hope you guys are ready because I'm excited to hear what our resource speaker has to say. So before introducing our resource speaker, we have one final reminder for our participants. So please note that the presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. This should not be construed as a professional, financial, or investment advice or recommendation from the PSE or from our resource speaker or the institution he represents. Okay, so this afternoon we have about over 300 live viewers in Zoom and Facebook combined. So thank you for investing your afternoon with us. As you have probably seen in our event poster, we have invited a guest speaker from a stock brokerage firm. So allow us to introduce him first before we go to his presentation. Our guest speaker has been in the stock market industry for 13 years. He graduated with a degree in agricultural economics from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He took up the PSE Certified Securities Specialist course from the Ateneo Center for Continuing Education and is an SEC Certified Securities Representative. So our speaker started out as a research analyst, became the head of the research department, and eventually became one of the top stockbrokers and traders in his firm, AP Securities, Inc. So he has also been a guest speaker in a number of local and international conferences. He has spoken in investment conferences in London, Barcelona, Dubai, and Bangkok. On a personal note, our resource speaker is happily married and a father of 2 boys. So when he is not trading in the stock market, he spends most of his time reading books and exercising. He is a practitioner of calisthenics, yoga, and Muay Thai. And I know personally that he is also a boxing fan. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our resource speaker, Mr. Jaycob Yedra. Good afternoon, Jaycob. Glad to have you with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, John. So should I start to share my screen already?
Okay. The floor is yours, Jaycob. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you, John. Once again, thank you for that nice introduction. And thank you, PSE, for inviting me again in your webinar. It's an honor and pleasure to join you guys. And thank you to all the viewers who are here with us today. I aimed at this presentation to be as practical as possible. I don't want to drown you with theories and, of course, I hope that you guys learn a thing or two from my presentation. I'll start my presentation with a quote from Benjamin Graham, and he said, "Successful investing is about managing risk and not avoiding it." So there are no investments without risks. You cannot avoid it. You cannot eliminate it completely. You can just manage it. So remember, again, if someone offers something with very high returns and he or she said it's risk-free, 100%, it's a scam. All investments have risk. But before going to my presentation, I would like to ask all of you a question. I can type it there and John can read some. So I'll give you 10 to 20 seconds to type in some, I'll read some.
Okay, so you can type it in the comment section if you're watching
Can
in
can you
Facebook.
can you read one or two, John? Let's hear some
Oh,
interesting answers from our audience.
okay, so what to do? What to do? The delta is here. Okay. You can okay, Ronilo from Zoom is saying buy, buy, buy. Okay, so we have one aggressive investor there. How about our
Bullish.
Facebook viewers? Buy the fear. Christopher Guevara says buy the fear. Arthur in Facebook says relax. Yan, maganda rin. Buy more as long as the fundamentals is intact, sabi ni Abraham. Buy the dips always, sabi ni Ian. Learn the fundamental and technical, sabi ni Jerry. Be greedy, buy, buy, buy. Teka, wait, buy, eat pusit. Si Socrates naman to, so she's probably from the south. Okay, buy
Hey,
more,
thanks.
buy low, sell higher. Nako, dami ng
Thanks,
comments.
John. I
Si
think
Ian, hold. Nako, baka maubos ang oras if
we
I read
will,
all of
yeah,
these.
mauubos yung oras natin. But I'm pretty sure all of those are valid. Those are some funny, and those are all valid reasons or the thing that you have to do. But if you ask me, diba, there are several valid answer. Pero sa aking palagay lang, no, the first you should do is self-assessment. You should, evaluate your status first. Have an honest evaluation of your status. So, isipin mo, where am I right now, di ba? So, am I swimming in debt? Am I behind my rent? Am I in danger of losing my job? Or is my business on the verge of bankruptcy? I'm barely surviving right now. Or pwede naman na my salary just doubled and lots of bonuses because I work in an e-commerce company. Because honestly, these are the questions you should be first asking yourselves, even before trying to analyze the market. I'll be very frank, no, there's no sense trying to analyze what stocks to buy, where in the first place, you're not in the position to be in the stock market anyway. All right, next slide. So you also have to think, no, are there leaks in your boat? And you have to remember that even large ships, they don't usually sink because of one giant hole in the hull. They sink because there are several small leaks that become larger and larger. So before putting your money to the market or parting ways with your hard earned cash, make sure that you also plug the leak first. And one more thing, no, you should have an idea about a worst case scenario, because investing, you should also look at the possible downside. Now here's the common mistake kasi, no, especially when you're actually not only to newbies. This is common mistake for everyone in the market. It's very common to only look at the potential gains and ignore the risk of losing money. Para kanina, tama naman, bullish, buy, tama naman. But you also have to consider that you have a risk of losing money. Now, I'm all for positive thinking. I'm a positive thinker. This just means what I'm trying to say is you also have to think of how to cover your downside. For example, you're doing well right now. You're earning well. But what if you're a bit unhealthy? Tinama ka ng COVID. So what now? Diba? Or your dad or your mom who is a senior citizen got sick. Do you have enough medical or emergency fund to cover it? And also, the potential income loss when you're sick, have you taken that into consideration? Or you're a business owner and your business is barely surviving and COVID lasted for far more than what you initially expected. And then, one more, if you put in money in the market and it didn't recover at the time you expected, will you be needing that money? Diba? So these are all the risks that you also have to consider and think of. So I'm not saying naman that you should be hindered in putting money in the market. I'm just saying that you also have to consider that things can go wrong? And if so, how will you protect yourself? So, assuming you already have a careful analysis of what I mentioned earlier about having self-assessment and analyzing the risk, you can now decide whether or not to take action. So ano naman, paano mo naman isipin? Buy, hold, or sell? Generally, if you are in a very good financial position, you have healthy savings, your cash flow is there, uh, especially to younger people, like you're only 21 years old, 22 years old, stable yung job mo, why not, di ba? The market has been proven to be a good investment vehicle in the long run. So why not? If this is your scenario, by all means, you can buy, or you can either start going into the market, or you can even add to your portfolio. So ano naman yung factors or condition mo when you should consider to just hold? Meron ka ng portfolio, meron ka ng investment, pero ano yung situation na ayaw mo na magdagdag, di ba? Kasi historically, the stock market has recovers from a crisis. Pero if you're just parang you're not really that comfortable right now in your job or in your business, you have a business but kalahati nung branches mo nung restaurant mo nalulugi na yung kalahati, just afloat, or you have a job, stable ka naman, pero yung industry where you work out medyo alanganin, baka it would be more prudent for you to just hold for now. Kasi anything in the market, lalo na right now, no, anything can happen. I must admit, no, when the market started, for those who have invested already, when the market started going up in April, naging bullish din ako, and I said, wala ECQ, it's impossible that we will go back to ECQ. But where are we right now, di ba? We're in ECQ. So no one can really say, di ba? So it's more prudent to, sometimes it's more prudent that you just hold and not add more. Of course, depending on your situation. And when is the time naman that you need to sell? So if you want to reduce risky assets in your portfolio to stabilize your finances, you should consider to sell. I know it's not the best time for, if you ask me, if I have, pag okay naman yung finances ko, I won't sell in a crisis. Kasi the valuations are low, the prices are low, so I won't sell. But you should always investments in the stock market is only secondary to your cash flow. Diba? Kung may business ka, nahihirapan ka na mag-sustain sa business mo, behind ka sa rent mo, or kailangan mo mangutang para, definitely kailangan mo mangutang para mag-invest sa stock market, that's a no. So if medyo talagang alanganin yung situation mo and mas gusto mo maging kampante and you have a peace of mind, then you can sell. And especially right now, no, peace of mind, mental health is equally as important as physical health. All right. So now you know when to take action, di ba? So next thing is, let's look into naman how to analyze the impact of COVID and a lockdown. But I'll be very frank and practical with you guys. This is the portion that I'll spend less time in discussing kasi there's no rocket science here, and being in a lockdown is something new. So if being in a lockdown for 1.5 years and you still have no idea of what are the effects of a lockdown to the economy, to the businesses, and to our personal lives, then you probably have no business in investing. Diba? Medyo masakit siya pakinggan, but it's true. You should have known the effects of COVID and Delta virus and lockdown to our economy. We can see it. It's happening in front of us. Our people that we know get sick, some die, diba? Businesses that we know close, people that we know get fired. So we pretty much know the effects of COVID. and having our economy under a lockdown. But, having said that, there are a couple of sectors that are resilient. And some not only resilient and not surviving, but they're actually quite doing well. So an example is the tech sector or e-commerce. So, but this one is pretty much explanatory. Think about the growth of GCash, diba? And all your orders online in Lazada, in Shopee, in GrabFood, or and so on. These are the industries that are booming right now. And also, we have the defensive industries or companies like consumer staples, companies that sell essential goods, yung tipong essential goods. Kailangan mo para mabuhay. Very basic. That's a very basic definition of essential goods. And utility companies also. Sino nagpo-provide ng kuryente, di ba? Ng power, ng water. And nowadays, especially during the pandemic, we can also say that telecommunications or the telco companies which provide data and communication are considered essential. Sure, pwede ka mabuhay, di ba? Hindi ka naman mamamatay pag walang internet, but sa panahon ngayon, it would be very, very difficult to live without the internet. Isipin mo, hindi ka maka-order online. O mag-isa ka sa condo, wala kang Netflix. That's a very hard life, di ba? And also, of course, the healthcare sector. So this sector includes biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, hospitals. Unfortunately lang, I don't think in the Philippines we have a direct healthcare stock, unlike in the US. Because, for example, sa US, the likes of Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson and Moderna, these are all the companies that produce the vaccine, but they're actually listed and they're doing pretty well. Okay, so we all know the effects of COVID and lockdown to the economy and the business. So ano naman yung effect sa stock market, sa financial market? So naturally, when the economy is down, so businesses are losing money, people getting fired, the stock market reacts negatively. There are very few exceptions like what's happening right now in the US, because if you have been investing globally and if you have been reading the news, not only in the Philippines, you can see that US stocks keep hitting new highs every day, almost every day, even ngayon, despite the pandemic. But it's pretty much an exception rather than a norm, because sila kasi ngayon they're printing trillions of dollars. And then they also have a lot of tech companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Zoom, even Zoom is listed, that are thriving right now. In the Philippines, we don't have tech stocks directly, but the likes of the closest thing we can think of is perhaps the likes of Globe, which provides telecoms, and they also have GCash, which is doing pretty well right now. We like Converge doing pretty well right now. So despite a pandemic, their income just went up like 3 times. But going back to the Philippine market, yun yung examples of tech. And in the Philippines, our market is definitely affected. There's no, sugarcoating about it naman. It's very evident that we're very much affected. But you have to take note that the markets are always forward looking. So what does that mean? So it means that the markets factor in future events and they don't dwell on current events. So if the majority of the investors think that the economy will rebound next year, the market will move ahead of that. And by the time that we report good actual data, the market most likely have risen already. So I'm going to describe naman how do markets react to positive or negative news right now. Because analyzing this is also a way of gauging whether we're in a bull market or a bear market, or right now we're not really in a very bad market but more on sideways. So what's happening right now? So definitely, it's not as bad as like second quarter or third quarter last year, when if I remember correctly, when the ECQ was announced for the first time, the Philippine market dropped intraday 20%. That has never seen before. That exceeded the intraday drop of the 1997 financial crisis and the 2007 financial crisis. So we're not there anymore. But we're definitely not in a bull market. Kasi in a bull market kasi negative news gets ignored. But right now, may bite pa rin yung negative news eh. Although it's not as, the bite is not as deadly as compared to, yun nga, second and third quarter of last year. We're doing better. Vaccines are being rolled out. I'm sure you will say, oh, but it's not in the ideal rate. But at least and if you look at peer comparison, we're not doing too bad. I mean, the cases in Indonesia are worse. They have much more new COVID cases than us. Even Thailand and Vietnam is way having higher number of infection. So it's not only the Philippines; it's global. So hindi siya pampalubag loob, but it's something that you should also consider when analyzing the market. So next one, as you can see nga, the market reacts on very negative news. I'll dwell on this later. I will show this slide again later with a couple of recommendations. So just take note of this right now. So all the bad news are here, diba? But one of my favorite quotes is said by John F. Kennedy, and he said that the Chinese word for crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger, and the other one represents opportunity. So always historically, when there's a crisis, usually that's the time to get prices cheap. You won't see, for example, when the market dropped like 10 to 20% intraday on the announcement of March ECQ last year, Ayala was like 19 pesos. Ayala Corp is 500 pesos. No, even during the current downturn, those stocks are 50% higher right now. So before we identify opportunities, no, this is a little, this is not an official research. So this is my own personal research I did nung in-announce yung ECQ. So I read a lot of data and journals about the pandemics. And when analyzing kasi, I always want to look on a objective perspective, on a historical perspective. So it doesn't mean naman that I want to trivialize the number. Of course, I don't want to do that, trivialize the number of, or make the number of deaths as statistics. But I'm doing this for analysis purposes. So if you look at it, COVID, we're not even close to the Spanish flu, which actually is not a Spanish flu. The first case came from Kansas, USA. So Spanish flu, there were about 1.9 billion people in the world and 500 million got infected. And 50 million people died. So that's huge. And it's not apples to apples comparison. So we should not always compare COVID with what happened in 1918. And the biggest difference is during that time, there were no vaccines. The nearest comparable pandemics in the recent history, which I'm pretty sure not a lot of people know, na nakalimutan na natin, and merong dalawang pandemics during the 1950s and the 1960s. So we have the Asian flu and the Hong Kong flu. So the estimated number of deaths during that time is also 1.2 million. A rough estimate of people died during that time. So if you compare that to the 4.2 million that died in COVID right now, it's similar in comparison. And you know, we're all here. So the economy eventually recovered. Everything eventually went back to normal. And if you, I've also looked into the history of pandemics. Pandemics is part of human cycles. I don't want to make it sound better, but I'm in talking about the historical perspective. We're there na. Like I don't want to predict when this will end, but typically there are 2 to 3 waves. The 1918 flu had 3 waves. The Asian flu and the Hong Kong flu had 2 waves. And currently, right now, we're on our third. I'm not saying that we won't have a fourth, but there's a good chance of pwedeng konting tiis na lang. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And of course, if you look at the history of pandemics, the worst pandemics in the world is really something to be afraid of. It's far from now. We have technology, we have vaccine, we have medical technology available. All right. So now we know where we are in the history of, in the pandemic perspective. Now let's look into some investment opportunities naman. So there are opportunities for both short-term trading and long-term investing. But I'll be very candid. It's not easy at all, yung short-term trading. Me, myself, I don't find it easy. My clients doesn't find it easy. The market is not trending. So it's just moving sideways. It's not strong. It's not yet strong. Yet it's not super weak naman. So this type of market is, to be honest, very selective in terms of trading opportunities. So yung mga pumasok lang sa market like 2014, nag-start, you all know how the local market was in a bull market, right? And parang ang dali ng stock picking and trading that time. To be honest, kasi lahat umaakyat, di ba? But this market is quite different. And actually, the people right now who's having a lot of success are either the market veterans who are very good at range trading, or those investors who have specialized knowledge. They know how the PSEI, MSEI, FTSE rebalancing works. No, so these are specialized knowledge that mostly professional investors know. So before I had a question, I saw a question before the presentation began. Why is the volume so large? So professional investors took advantage and made money of the PSEI rebalancing, and there's also an upcoming MSEI rebalancing. Now that's for a different topic. What I'm trying to say is this market is ideal for those who have very specialized knowledge and experience in the market. But if you're making good money in trading in this type of market, by all means, this is a range trading market. By all means, put your money. But if you're not, or if you're a newbie, or you're not really into short-term trading, you can look to acquire companies at relatively cheap valuations and just ride out the volatility and hold out for the long term. Because again, on a historical perspective, I'll show you the slide next to this. Investing in stocks during a crisis really gives good returns. You just have to stomach the volatility, and of course make sure that you have enough funds to have peace of mind while seeing the kind of volatility we are having right now. Alam nyo naman yung kind of volatility. The market was like trading negative 0.7 to 0.1%, and at the close we ended 3.6%. Diba? I think that's not super alarming naman, because most of it are just fund flows from rebalancing. when you say rebalancing, it's not really because of fundamentals, it's just fund flows. All right. So, as I mentioned earlier, and as you can see, diba, getting shares when the market is in the middle of a crisis has always been rewarding. No, this is the Philippine chart. And I've also looked into I always look into the US for benchmark or historical comparison because their market is much longer than us and they have data for that. So I also looked into the performance of Dow Jones during 1918 to 1923, and it's also very similar to what happened to the US market right now. So at the time of the pandemic when everything is uncertain, big drop, but eventually it recovered now. So again, I'm not saying there's a guarantee that you'll make money because there's no guarantee in the market. But on this one, history is on our side. So if we hold our investment, history is on our side. But then again, provided you have sufficient cash flow and you're stable, then you can opt to just buy and hold. Teka, balik ulit. As to what specific stocks to buy, well, I'm a stockbroker, so you can always open an account with us. But kidding aside, generally speaking, try to get companies that are doing pretty well right now. Like the examples I mentioned earlier, yung mga defensive stocks. And also you can think of work from home stocks, di ba? Ano yung stocks na magpo-prosper if everyone's just stuck at home? Isipin nyo din. May recently umaakyat because of that. You can also get large caps that have fallen out of favor and you think that will come back strong 2 to 3 years from now. And generally I would avoid buying speculative stocks right now, companies which are not even earning at all, in danger of going bankrupt, or yung favorite ng local stock market, shell companies. We have seen a lot of those during January, and I know maraming investors, especially the newbie traders, ang naipit sa taas. So I don't suggest that you buy these things unless you really know what you're doing and you're a professional. Otherwise I suggest that you should stick to the basics. I believe and I guess a lot of investors believe that investing doesn't have to be complicated. And we have this saying, KISS. Ano yung KISS? Keep it simple. You don't have to make it overly complicated, di ba? Good for quality names, good for example, you bought Ayala Land at 19 pesos in March. You would have made 60% right now. Just an example. All right. So again, as I mentioned, in investing, it's not all about the potential gains, di ba? You also have to consider the risk. So I will categorize this as external and internal risk. So let's go first to external risk. So these are the risks that are outside your control. Like, what do we have? Delta infection, more mutations, another series of lockdowns, prices of goods rising, and so on. So this type of risk are, outside your control. And the best way to mitigate the risk, or probably the best way to do with it, is simply spreading risk through different asset classes or portfolio diversification. Examples will be having investment in stocks, fixed income securities, real estate, markets abroad, commodities, even crypto and crypto gaming like Axie if you understand the risk. But practically speaking, if you're not a fund manager or you're not in a position where you are very, very financial comfortable, I think you should not be focusing too much on portfolio diversification, because you should focus more on income generation and income diversification to protect yourself from this external risk. If you're not yet, the very high net worth individual with several million dollars of net worth or a fund managing billions of pesos, for me, you should focus on having more than two, three sources of income rather than focusing too much on portfolio diversification. So those are the external risk, and we have naman internal risks. So these are the risks that can happen to you on a personal level with degree of control. I just said some degree of control. Normally, I would say you have control over this risk, but because especially in our situation right now, you can still lose your job even if you're performing well because the industry that you're working with might not be doing well. So right now, even the internal risk can be affected a lot by external risk. But your performance in your company, how you run your company, your health, and where you put your money, those are all within your control, and you can mitigate those risks. And there's a couple of way of mitigating it. Like, of course, on a personal level, you always strive for excellence and improvement. Marami tayong downtime, di ba? Instead of panay Netflix, di ba? Try to learn something new, read a book, have a new skill. And for me, very, very important taking care of your physical and mental health. Because I have seen it personally, no matter, di ba, ano pa yung amount of riches that you have and gaano ka ka-diversified, when you have poor health and tinamaan ka, it's all gonna be wasted. So you should know, health is really wealth. And of course, as Warren Buffett says, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. So make sure you study before putting in some money. Hindi yung invest ka lang. Uy, umakyat yung stock, bili din ako. Uy, kumikita daw si sa crypto game na ganito. Bili na ako ng teams. Tapos biglang nag-iba yung mechanics, di ba? So always study. And I would be glad to talk to you more, but I think our time is running up. So key points in summary. So before putting in money, have an honest self-assessment. Know where you are right now. Yun yung pinakauna bago ka mag-analyze. Baliwala yung analysis mo kung hindi ka naman dapat nag-invest. And then, know the risk and prepare for it. And finally, know what you're going into. Mag-aral kayo. Study. So that's it. I hope this is something practical and, something that you learned from. So, John, take it away.
Thank you, Jacob. Talaga naman a lot of wisdom. We gained a lot of wisdom from Jacob's presentation this afternoon. I mean, the stock market and investing doesn't have to be complicated, and at the end of the day, what we do is how we manage our investment. These are all personal decisions, and it affects our lives, our families' lives, and tama naman lahat ng sinabi, no? Know yourself, know the impact of what's going on, and of course, study. No? Ladies and gentlemen, please let's give a virtual round of applause for Mr. Jaycob Yedra of AP Securities, Inc. Okay, so with that, we bring our webinar to a close. So we would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our resource speaker for sharing again his valuable time. We really learned a lot about mitigating risks and taking advantage of investment opportunities during this trying time. If you need to get in touch with the PSE, our contact details are also displayed on the screen right now. You can call our hotline 632-8876-4888 or email info@pse.com.ph. Visit our website, www.pse.com.ph. For the latest disclosures, go to PSE Edge. And for investing materials, do visit the PSE Academy website. Please like and follow our official social media accounts. We are very active in social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And if you missed our previous webinars and previous events, do visit our YouTube channel. We post the edited high-definition videos there for your viewing pleasure. And while you're at it, please remember to hit the subscribe button. Download the PSE mobile apps, the PSE Edge mobile app for information right at your fingertips, and also the PSE Easy mobile app for upcoming offerings. You may subscribe to IPOs through the PSE Easy mobile app. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, another learning-filled afternoon brought to you by the Philippine Stock Exchange, entitled The Delta Variant, Managing Risk While Taking Investment Opportunities, featuring our resource speaker, Mr. Jaycob Yedra from AP Securities, Inc. This is John Garcia, your host. Wishing you all a happy weekend. Remember, guys, stay safe and be well.